Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. If you haven't joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations to help them do one thing and one thing only, increase their sales. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales. If you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or I bring you somebody who can add value to the profession of sales in an interview. And today is no exception, my friends. Today's guest is the co-founder of Gain the Edge Now, which offers a proven system for unstoppable sales growth. And who doesn't want that? He's known as the sales godfather. Please welcome Jim Padilla. Good morning, Godfather.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. Thanks for having me on.
Great to see you, Jim. Jim, before I get started with the 1,000,001 questions that I have for you, could you please tell us the maybe 2 to 3 minute version of your background?
Yeah, the short version, of course, is that I was born a long time ago to a couple of teenage parents, and my dad took off right away. My mom responded to a very challenging situation with a lot of fear, anger, and rage. And as you could imagine, that produced a very tumultuous upbringing for me. And as she was trying to figure out her way, I was the guinea pig for a lot of things, and ended up in foster care, on streets, in gangs at 16 and in jail by 19. And I learned every day how to read the room and bend people's influence in my direction. So that was my means of survival. That was how I found love. That was how I found safety. That was how I found support. So I got really good at making that happen. And then, little did I know that over the next 25 years plus, that I would make millions of dollars teaching other people how to read the room, bend influence in their direction, so that other people feel safe around you. When they feel safe around you and you're not a threat, then they lower their guard. And now real conversations can happen, real things can occur, and solutions can be provided. And then we've been able to take that, systemize it, structure it, put it into play. And, we generated $500 million worth of sales results for clients as a done-for-you sales organization, as a team that, a company that recruits world-class salespeople and then teaches them how to be in the business of sales, full cycle salespeople, as we call them, versus just closers. And then equipping companies with all the right systems to support those salespeople to be overachievers.
Jim, you said something, you said a bunch of things that I want to talk about, but one of them was reading the room and being able to lower resistance. It's natural for people when they meet with a salesperson to have some resistance up because we have a bad reputation, many of us, because there are some scumbags out there. I think it's not as bad as it was when I first started selling 50 years ago, but there are still people who give sales a bad name. So it's natural to walk into a resistance-filled atmosphere. How do we go about lowering resistance, and how do we get better at reading the room?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Not going to jail, by the way.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating in sales again, because obviously if you know one sales trainer, you probably know 100 of them. And everybody's busy trying to teach you how to do something and add something to your persona or your style. What I learned is that the thing that got me to be the version of me that was disarming, was just losing all the pretenses and just staying completely focused on that person. And when I could see the people in the room and I know, okay, what do they need and how do I supply that? And then it wasn't about me at all. It was just about them. And lo and behold, when you show up about other people, they want you around. They like you as long as it feels good, fake it and force it, but just learn how to read it and apply what would a naturally empathetic, what would another human being would do for this person that would make them feel more comfortable, or whatever it is. If I can amplify what you're doing. If you're showing up as the King Kong in the room, great. How do I help you feel more like King Kong so you don't have to act like King Kong?
Yeah. I find that quite often salespeople use what I call their sales voice or their business voice. I was working with a guy I'm coaching just the other day, and I was listening to him while he was making cold calls, and talking to me. He's like you and I talking right now. But then when he got on the phone, he was like, "Hi, I'm Mr. This and that," that. And he got off this call. I said, "Who was that?" He goes, "Oh, I was talking to someone." No, I don't care who you were talking to. Who was the guy on your end of the line? He goes, "It's me." I said, "No, that's not the guy that I've been talking with. Stop trying to be somebody else. Just be you." How important is it to just be real in sales, to let people know who you are, warts and all.
Yeah, it's fascinating because that's literally the number one rule in our company at Gain the Edge. It's on my signature in my email. Is it's not what you're saying, it's who you're being while you're saying it that moves the needle, moves mountains. Because you can say all the right words, and you've probably had the same thing. I've been in many trainings where people are like, wait, say that again, Jim. I got to write that down. Like, don't worry about capturing my words. Worry about capturing my perspective, my intention, my energy. You've got the right words. They're your clients. You're the one who knows them better than I do. You just need to be able to come from the right place. And I believe firmly that the most enrolling thing you will ever do is be yourself at the greatest version of yourself.
Yeah. So, and I've had that same experience. The same guy who I was coaching yesterday said, you always seem to have the right words. Just give me your words. I'm like, no. My words are my words. They're the words that feel comfortable coming out of my mouth. What you want is the philosophy. What you want is being you and having some type of a system. Because I find that so many times salespeople, they're winging it. They don't have a process. They don't have a system. And not just salespeople, but the organizations they work for. And you got to be you inside some kind of a process, no?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, largely because, we just got to think about it. Once you have the process down, then you don't need to refer to the process. Once you get it, and it doesn't take long. I just got done brushing my teeth, right? It's 7 a.m. here on my side of the country. And I don't think about how I brush my teeth. I just do it. But there's a process, right? I can't brush my teeth if I don't take the cap off the toothpaste. And, I can squeeze it all day long, but nothing's going to come out, right? There's a process. You got to do things in order.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Amelia. So it's a little later here, but I'm usually at my desk by 5 or 6. And I just got out of the shower because I knew we were going to get on this. And I wanted to look as good as I possibly could. But there's even a process I wash the same things in the same order every single time. I don't have to, but you're right. I don't think, okay, now I'm going to wash my left arm on my left shoulder. You just do it and it becomes, it's kind of like driving. Nobody's driving, sees a yellow light and go, okay, I'm going to release gently my foot off the right, the pedal on the right, slowly move it. It's just natural when you practice it and make it your own. And I think that's what a lot of salespeople don't do. They don't find a system that they're comfortable with. They are winging it, and then they don't practice. They don't get in. You can almost do anything if you learn the proper way and practice. So many times, though, I think people want to go into a gym, lift weights once and go, okay, I'm pumped. And that's not the way it works. You need reps and reps and more reps. Yes?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's somewhat annoying at times. I have 4 journals here. They each are for different parts of my business and life. I've got a whiteboard here, magnetic whiteboard with about 60 magnetic stick-it posties on there because I'm in the middle of producing a project. I got flip charts over here and back here, as you can see, because I'm always preparing. I'm always thinking stuff through, whiteboarding it out, map. I'm great on the fly and often at my peak, but that's because I prepared so much that I can move on the fly.
Yeah. I often hear, Jeff, you're a natural. I'm not. No, I wasn't. I didn't pop out of the womb this way. This is 50 years of experience that got me to sound the way I do. So I want to ask you about this. Why aren't our leads as good as we think they are?
Our leads aren't as good as we think they are because the biggest challenge for most of us is what I call it romanticizing. We romanticize our own business, our own experience, our own connection and relationship to people. And I am guilty of being a bit delusional myself. It serves me well. I believe that every room I walk into is better for it. I firmly believe that if I walk up and you were talking with somebody and you stop talking, I don't assume you were talking bad about me. I assume you were talking like great about me and you just wanted to stop. Because it doesn't serve me to think anything differently. We all carry our own version of that. And so we'll be like, yeah, this guy was amazing when I talked to him, or this video was great and 50 people responded to it. And so we automatically assume their intentions and their motives. All we know for a fact is they responded. We don't know why or for what. And so we start writing their story. And then all of a sudden we think there's more to it than there is. And then that person is not quite as qualified or as connected. I cannot tell you how many times in campaigns that we're talking to salespeople, with somebody who has spent $100,000 a month on ads, and they're all over the place, and they're stunned that these people didn't go Google them and look them up, and they're showing up on sales calls going, "Tell me more about him. I don't know who he is." And founders are stunned by that because they believe, well, I put this stuff into the funnel. They should have already known it. Yeah, but they didn't open a damn email. So who cares what you put in the funnel? Right? So we get overly romanticized about all the things that are great in our business and how well they're working.
Now, you have a proven system for turning passive leads into qualified leads and qualified booked appointments. Everybody wants more of those, including myself. How do we do that, Jim?
Well, this is the part that this is where it starts to get a little bit, well, it becomes work. And as Joe Rogan, one of my favorite podcasters, says, I listen to him, he talks about getting up at 5:30 in the morning and taking the dog and going for a run. He's like, I've been doing this for 30 years and I hate it every time. He's like, every single day I get up at 5:30. It never gets easier. Matter of fact, it gets harder as I get older. Put my feet on the ground, I grab the dog and we go for a run. I said, why do I do it? Because I'm a grown up. And I'm an adult and I just do the things that I have to do so that I don't age poorly and die. And I like, man, that's just we all need that. And same thing here. Do you want to run an effective business? Do you want to run a business that is able to be leveraged and supported by other people? Then you have to start doing the work of putting things in place that are going to ensure a better experience for the end user and more ease and grace for you and hopefully your team or your future team. So you have to, here's the simple thing, super simple system 101. You have a sales system. The good news is you have a sales system. You have a process. Everybody does. It just may not be super effective right now. And so what you need to do is just write down a piece of paper, literally look at what is hello in your world. For us right now, for most of you, this is hello. You're just meeting me. So the conversation has now begun. It doesn't begin when you and I get on a phone call or you're on with my team or you're on a workshop or a webinar. It started now. My job is to document all of the steps between hello and the eventual intersection of problem, solution, and opportunity between us and beyond. And so that's every single step. Once we document that, I now have a process. It may not be beautiful and it may not be super effective, but it is a process. And then you start looking inside of it and you go, how do I make this more human and effective so that it is at its peak? Then you can go backwards to how do I make it more efficient and automation. Don't start with automation. I hear people say all the time, once you do it once, you got to automate it. Not necessarily, not if it isn't working or it isn't helping. Don't automate anything that isn't any good. Only automate stuff that you absolutely know works and needs to be done. That's how you determine it. But once you do those things, that's it. That's your build a sales system 101. And then from there, you can worry about automation, bring somebody else in. Once it's documented, someone else can do it. Once it's documented, hell, AI can work with you on it, but they're not going to extract it from your brain.
Yeah. Automating a bad process just gives you more of a bad process.
Right. And when you look at it like that, even with your minimal sales experience, you're going to see obvious holes, weaknesses, and things that need to be replicated and captured.
Yeah. So often I find that people and organizations, they don't take the time to analyze. They do something and they're not thinking about it. They're not measuring, they're not testing and seeing what's working. And they just keep, well, this is what we're doing, so let's keep on going for that and see how it works out. I wanted to ask you about something else that I read that you wrote. You say there's a difference between introductions and referrals. I've been in a networking group for 20 years and 30% of my business comes from, so I'm very big on referrals. What's the difference between introductions and referrals, and how do we maximize the number of referrals we get? Because I think everybody would agree, I assume you would, that there's nothing better than a well-made introduction, a well-made referral.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It can be, you can call it semantics, but it's, everybody calls things differently. The key is, I have intentionality around my referral network. That flip chart back there is we have a peak performance partner process, which is how you build a partner system. Because I spend about 40% of my time on my calendar is dedicated to developing partnership relationships. I actually have a firm belief that there's nothing wrong with prospecting for clients unless it comes at the expense of prospecting for partners. I always prospect for partners because you can knock on 1 door, 10 doors, get one of them to open the door and say yes. And then you now have to go to 10 more doors to find another person to say yes. But if you knock on 10 potential partners doors, collaborators, and they say yes, that opens the door to a whole bunch of other people to say yes. And then you go find another partner. Pretty soon you've got a network of partnerships who are bringing you warm, connected, trust building opportunities. And this goes part to, the theme that when we first were engaging around this interview about people who are not professional salespeople. And so I have some thoughts I want to be able to share about that, support that perspective. But a lot of this is like, the more you can do to structure your environment for sales to happen, the less great you have to be at selling. And that's my preference, even though I'm great at selling. I much prefer not to have to.
Right.
So we want people who understand, and your job is, once you nail down who those people are and why they should be in your world, what's the reciprocal benefit of each other's, of the relationship. And then your job is to educate them thoroughly on what does it mean to be able to be a partner to you. My mission when we're working with partners and everybody, you, Jeff, my mission is, how do I be a resource to you? How can I provide any gap that you can't? How do I be something that if I can help you win one more client, or help one more client that you already have get something that he hasn't been able to get, I'm winning, because I'm putting relationship equity in place. And then, I can the more we talk, the more relationship we have, the more you'll know about how we do what we do. And it's not about the stuff we do. It's about you going, man, those guys are great. You're good people. Matter of fact, that's one of the best referrals we have. We have a client we worked with, CEO Warrior, Mike Aguilera, and we helped them scale their company to an exit. It was a phenomenal journey. And he gives referrals to us when we need big, we have heavy hitters that we're looking to bring in. He always tells them the same thing. Number one, they're great at what they do. But if you want somebody to care about your business as much as you do and be able to think as fast as you about it, then your search is done. And people love that perspective. And I love that he shares that about us.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying here, because you're coming from a place of service. The words I use constantly are, how can I help you? Yes. In fact, in the networking group I belong to, I often am the first person to take on a guest or somebody new who just joined and say, hey, let's get together, get to know each other. And not that I do it for this reason, but I'm constantly acknowledged. I met with Jeff and it was terrific because he asked me, how can he help me? Because most people, I think, go into it like, let me tell you what I do so you can help me. But really, it's you got to be generous. I believe in the law of reciprocity. If you do the right thing for people, if you help people, they tend to want to do the right thing for you also. So it's just who I am. I find that rather than, here's what I've got and you need to buy some, or give me some referrals, it's like, what can I do for you? That's when things really work out well for you. And again, I'd rather have a well-made introduction, a well-made referral than anything else, because I believe that when it's done properly, when a referral properly introduces you, the customer, the prospect is halfway sold before you even get there, because they're using their social capital. Yes, totally.
And we have layers. Part of that chart back there is we had this epiphany that last year, the affiliate game, the JV game is pretty popular in the expert space. And we have a lot of our clients and colleagues that are in that game. And several of them a big community of them were going on a cruise last year. And they were all bragging and nothing wrong, nothing bad. This is not to tarnish them in any way. But they were like, I'm so looking forward to this cruise. I love doing stuff to build my business and have fun with my partners. And it was all partners in business and partners in business and partners in business. But not once was the client ever mentioned. And we thought, that's interesting, because you can only have one first. Only one thing can be first. And if the first focus is your partner or the first focus is your business, that means by definition, your client is not. So we went to the whiteboard and said, okay, how do we do this in a way that ensures the client is first? And so we started focusing on something we call client first collaborations. So if we focus on putting the client at the center of this, how do we ensure that they're winning? And then how do we build the right partnerships around that, so that everything we do is in service to the client. And then as a result, as a byproduct, we win. then that's more natural, because that's how God wired us to be able to give our gifts to others. And again, nothing wrong with the people who we're talking about having fun with our partners in business, because then the outcome of the byproduct is that their clients will win too. But that's the byproduct instead of the intention. And that's the only twist on what we're talking about.
Yeah, and the client first attitude that you're talking about is the same thing on a sales call. I find that the typical salesperson starts a sales call like this. Hey, Jim, I'm sure you're busy. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to get right to the point. Let me tell you why Jeff Goldberg and Associates is the greatest training and coaching firm in the world. And then you throw up all over them, and you can watch their eyes glaze over. They leave the room. They're in the room physically, but mentally they're like, how do I get out of this? You watch them checking their watch. They can't wait for you to leave. But when you actually care about them, people can tell. When there's a word I hate in sales, which people use all the time, about the pitch. I hate that word. It's so old school. And look, I am an old school guy. I've been doing this a long time, but I'm not. To me, the only pitcher should be on a mound in a baseball stadium. We got to stop pitching. And it's really to me about how do I ask the right questions to find out what people really are doing now, so that I can help them do it better.
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons that I am good at sales is, well, I've studied it for 50 years, but I'm a genuinely curious person. I love finding out about people, and I love knowing what makes them tick. And to me, that's the essence of sales. How do I get people into a conversation where they're going to share with me what's going on and what do they want to accomplish and that stuff? Am I on the right track here, Jim, or am I crazy?
I think 100%. We talked earlier about reading the room, and the difference. I will say that I had a blessing growing up in the environment that I did. I had to learn skills that were do or die, life or death. And those are the same kind of skills that most salespeople learn to win or lose the sale. So I had much more at stake. So I had to master it. When I was reading the room, I was like literally reading the room, because if I misread something, I could get hurt. Someone else could get hurt. There were challenges. So I couldn't afford to misread the room. And so people just have to raise the stakes. And what I find is that when we think about ourselves, we rarely think deeply enough, and we will rarely go all far enough to make sure that everything is okay. But when we focus on other people, we tend to go farther for them, right? So get what I call obsess about your client's problems. If you obsess about their problems, it will just become natural to focus on solutions for them and why those problems matter and what they're going to do, the second and third order consequences of not solving those problems, et cetera. And now you don't even have to talk about you or your product. You just, because you're so entrenched in what they're doing, which hopefully will, if you don't already have it, will lead to a sense of curiosity to find out more about how they started that problem in the first place, what caused it, how long they've been hanging out with it, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I love hearing this, because I can't tell you how many times I've told salespeople, you've got to care more about your client than they care about themselves. You've got to show them who you are in the matter. People can smell what I call commission breath when you're just there to make a sale and make some money because you got to pay the rent or the mortgage or whatever's going on. But when you truly come from it, and I'm going to stand up and point to Mike, when you come from a place deep inside your gut of, I'm truly here to serve you, if that's the right thing to do, people know that. And that's when people stop thinking of us like a typical salesperson just there to take their money, and they start seeing us as a true partner. And I think that's what we're going for. But you recently said that great businesses map the entire customer journey. What did you mean by that?
Do that in 1 second. You were just talking about, coming from here. And I was thinking about the client you were saying earlier who went into Ted Koppel voice, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to turn that voice on. What that would tell me is that he's missing something in his standard default voice, because most of us, we tend to speak as a tactic, for lack of a better term. So like we think our voice begins here, and so we speak from here, and that's why people will get they're running it because they're trying to force something out. And if we learn, if you're the gentleman that you're talking about, if he learns to speak from here, then his version of that Ted Koppel voice will just be more natural. Because when you speak from here, it has to come out of your breathing, and you have to learn how to. It comes out, but it comes with more authority because it's coming from the center of you. Then you don't have to turn this on because you just become that version, right? So and then it just makes you. It's more authoritative. It's more natural, and it's real. Right?
Speaking from the gut, or if if you ever took singing lessons, you don't breathe from your chest, you're breathing from your diaphragm. It's a different thing. And the other thing I find quite often, and I don't usually do this, but I did yesterday. One of the things I do is outsourced or fractional sales management. Mm-hmm. And I was interviewing somebody for one of my clients yesterday, and great infectious attitude, lovely young lady, good experience. And I don't normally do this, but I said, would you mind if I offered some coaching? Unsolicited advice is rarely welcome, but if you don't mind, I have a way to turn you into a better salesperson in 3 seconds. And she goes, yeah, of course I want to hear that. Whenever I do something like that, Jim, I'll always go, look, I'm going to ask you that question again. Is it okay to offer you coaching? Because sometimes I say things that people don't want to hear. So is it still okay? And she said, yes, it is. I said, you talk too much. You talk way too much. I've asked you a question and you went on for 10 minutes. I had to interrupt you 5 times. So if you actually talk less, you're going to close more business. Salespeople seem to think that it's about your dazzling presentation, when to me it's not. There's the old saying, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You get the prospect speaking twice as much as you do. Personally, I've never found a way to get them speaking twice as much, but I absolutely have people speaking as much as I do. It should be a conversation. Am I on target here? Or am I crazy?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of science behind this too. And because the thing to think about is, if it takes you a lot of words to make the point, then you aren't very clear about the point. If you're not very clear about the point, maybe you're not the expert that you think you are. And whether you say it or not, whether they verbalize it or not, they're feeling that. And they're not going to tell you, you used too many words and I'm not quite sure about your authority. Therefore, I'm not going to buy from you. You know what they say? I need to think about it.
I was just going to say, I'll think about it and get back to you. Yeah.
I can think about it.
And you walk out and you go, that was the greatest sales pitch of my life. And you can't understand why they never pick up the phone again and why you didn't close the deal.
Or you're busy trying to solve for, I need to think about it, or trying to solve for, I can't afford it, when that was never the problem. Right. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, the more words you use, the more words they have to process. The more words they have to process, the less they comprehend, the easier it's going to be to get to, I need to think about it. Right. This is just simple science that is involved in this. So find a way to use sound bites. If you're an expert at what you do, just write down 100 things. I have an exercise. Actually, I'll even share it to you. It's called a 1-inch mile exercise. And the concept is, everybody knows, hopefully, that 5,280 feet are in a mile. And the concept is, you should know 5,280 things, 80 units of information about your ideal client, if you think you're the expert of their problem. And that means breaking everything down to the nuance. Like, I can talk about our ideal clients in ad nauseum. I know that they're great at what they do. They work way too hard to not earn the revenue that they know they're capable of. They've been in business so long and doing this so well and so hard that they're so focused on their business that they have goals and dreams, but they've forgotten about them because they're so focused on trying to make this thing win and run. And they're tired of going on a vacation, tired of being on vacation and going to a mastermind, and everybody else at the mastermind is at the pool without their phone. You got to bring your phone, because your team might need to ping you for an emergency, instead of going, you know what, my company's going to grow. We're going to make more sales this week than when I was there last week, and I can't wait. Right. So it's, all of those things. Then you could take it out to the next order of consequence. Like, what does your home life look like? How much stress are you carrying because you're afraid to tell your wife how bad things are actually getting, et cetera, right? And I could do this all day. And so can you, if you think about it. But then you just turn each of those things into a soundbite. And then you bring those one soundbite at a time when you're in a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, talking less is important. I also suggest that silence can be the salesperson's best friend. And I love what you said about less words more are better than more words. I do stand-up comedy on the side because I don't get enough people paying attention to me during the week. And it's the same thing in stand-up comedy. You watch a comedian and you're thinking they're telling me this long story, but actually they're telling you very little pieces of stories, because the key is, in stand-up, it's how do I get to the laugh as quickly as possible. In fact, working with my mentors in the stand-up comedy field, it's always, Jeff, cut the meat, cut the fat. Cut the fat. Too many words, because like so many salespeople, I'm in love with the sound of my own voice. But it's not about that. It's about less words and how do I get to the funny? It's the same thing in sales. It's not about what we say. To me, it's about the questions we ask and our ability to listen to the answers, which I find most salespeople, I call this a technical sales training term, they suck at it. We suck as listeners. We think we get paid to talk. You and I get paid to talk when we're speaking or training, but not when we're selling. To me, we get paid by asking questions and listening. There was something else I wanted to ask you about, though. Rejection is part of every salesperson's life. Most of us typically hear no more often than we hear yes. Tell us a bit about how the brain builds a fence around rejection, how that keeps us safe, but why that can be a real challenge.
Yeah, there's a fundamental flaw. I love busting myths. I like to be a little contrarian when I can be. The old know, like, and trust myth, I think, is somewhere back years ago, some guy said it once and everybody else said, man, that sounds great. Let me just keep repeating it. And now every leadership and sales development company expert on the planet says, you got to get the know, like, and trust factor. It's like, how many times do you buy stuff from people you don't know? How many times do you buy stuff from people that you don't trust, but you heard enough about it that you just want, somebody else said they were great, so now you say that they were great. And most importantly, how many people do you need to like to buy from me? You don't need to like to buy from me, but you darn sure want to win if you buy from me. And so that's all that should matter. The key is there's a fundamental opposition with needing to be liked and wanting to tell the truth. If you need to be liked, you will not tell the truth because that's risky. So you saying you were wanting to tell the truth to this woman means you were not there to be liked. You were there to be of service.
Didn't care.
Because you just needed to tell her the truth. And way too many salespeople have this fear of rejection, inappropriately based because you're writing their story. You think they're going to be offended by something you might say, so you don't say it because you want them to like you. And instead, you don't tell them the one thing you probably needed to tell them, and then they didn't get moved to a place of inspiration and being compelled and making a decision. And then you go home and go, man, I should have said that thing. Well, then say the thing. Don't go to your sales coach and say, I should have said this. Because when my clients come to us and say, here's what I didn't say, I said, call them back right now and say it. Right now. The worst thing they already told you no. Worst thing they do is tell you no again.
I want everybody to like me. I don't need them to. It's not important.
It can't be the motive.
Whether I work with her together or not, we'll see. But I'd like her to like me, but I didn't care. I was coming from a place of service. It's like, how do I serve this person? Whether I hire her or not, or she accepts or not, I want to give her something. In every interaction, I'm always trying to add value. I do take a little bit of exception. I think I wouldn't buy from somebody I didn't trust. But you're right. I don't have to like you. It's useful to be liked. It's useful to know people, but you're right. You don't know everybody. Look, I'm having a new car delivered today. I do know this guy for years. This is the fourth car he sold me, and I do trust him, and I do like him. But I bought cars before from people I barely knew, and definitely didn't like, because many salespeople in that industry tend to be scumbags. But
here's only the twist I'll put on the trust piece. Trust is usually the biggest thing that we're after in the sales game, and that's what is needing to be delivered. And you do not have to like me in order to trust me. Usually, if I tell you more truth, if I'm focused on delivering truth versus getting you to like me, that's going to lead to trust far faster. And I don't need you to trust me. I need you to be able to trust yourself that you made a great decision. I have to get you to affirm the decision you made to come into my world in the first place. And that way you can trust yourself. And if you can trust yourself because you've been able to assess that this is the right place for you to be, and this has the solutions you need, then you win. And if you want to call that trusting me, that's great, but I'm not as concerned about you trusting me as I am about you trusting yourself to make the decision.
Yeah. And it's interesting about trust. I don't know if you know my friend Todd Capone, who wrote The Transparency Sale, but he brilliant guy. And he talks about reviews on Amazon. When you read all 5-star reviews, everyone's a 5-star reviews. It looks good, but the brain goes, that's impossible. Not everybody can possibly say this is a perfect thing. They've studied it, excuse me. And the studies show that when you see reviews with between, I think it's a 4.4 and a 4.7, we tend to trust those more than 5-star reviews. Incredible.
Yeah. And I'm exactly that when I buy stuff on wherever it is, like downloading apps. Right now I think we're in the app revolution with all this AI.
Yeah.
I'm downloading a new dang app almost every day. But the first thing I do before I download it, I go to the reviews and I immediately look for the 1 stars. Not that I will believe them, but I want to know what problems they had and are those problems that might bother me,
Yeah.
in which case that might prevent me from doing it, even if there's a 4.9 all the way across the board. But I just want to look, okay, why are they ones? And does that look like it was a them problem? Or is that a problem that, ooh, you know what? I struggle with that too. Maybe I won't like this. Right.
Yeah.
So you definitely look for the realness in the opportunity.
Yeah. I'll read the 5-star reviews, but I also want to read the 1 stars and the 3 stars. And I'm not sure, I might have seen it on your post, but was it you who posted something about book just came out, there's already 200 5-stars reviews? Was that you? I read that.
That one wasn't me. But.
Well, I saw it today on LinkedIn. I thought it might have been you. But yeah. How can a book that just came out 10 minutes ago have 200 5-star reviews already? Clearly, it's friends who somebody said, hey, could you please post a review?
Yeah.
You can't trust it. You got to look at everything. Tell us about your podcast, Opportunity Makers. What's that all about, and where do we find that?
Yeah, I had Opportunity Makers was my exploration to providing hope and encouragement during COVID. Because there were just too many people that were worried about what's possible. And I've always been, again, the eternal optimist. I've always been the one to find the opportunity in the challenge and the problem. And so the more problems there are, the more opportunities exist. And so the focus was interviewing millionaires or billionaires or people who've exited companies. And because a lot of them were our clients and our colleagues. And so that they could share stories around, how do they think differently than what the average person is thinking, so that they can see that this is really the life of your making, not something that's happened to you, and you get to choose that. And I have the same story as most of them, in that people say to me all the time, well, you can think that way now, Jim. You've made success, you've earned millions, you've done, yeah, but you don't understand. I didn't earn that until I started adopting this perspective. Right? I had to start seeing that, yes, opportunities are everywhere. And that every time you come to me with a problem, all we see around you is infinite possibility, limitless opportunity for you. And taking that perspective, all of a sudden starts attracting opportunities and opening doors. And so I do fancy myself as an opportunity maker. So that's what that podcast is about. It's so we had paused it. We did like 35, 36 episodes. And then I was just focused on other things, but we're actually we're just doing some more interviews right now. We're going to refire that back up.
Nice. Love that.
I tend to get bored fast. And so I started my first podcast. Well, my first podcast years ago, 2009 was literally the statistic of pod fade. Like most podcasts don't make it past the 9th episode. I quit after 9. But then I started one called Sales Unscripted, because I just don't believe, not that I'm against scripts, I just don't believe they're necessary. I think they're useful. And so I had the Sales Unscripted episode, did, 30 episodes of that, got bored with that. Then we did the Make More Sales episode and piled it on top of the Sales Unscripted episode. So if you go back to it, it's all there. Then after we got bored with that, after about another 30 or 40 episodes, then we started the Sales Team Ready podcast. And then we just literally had the same podcast and just changed the name and the focus. So if you go to the Sales Team Ready podcast, which I have not done episodes there for a year or two, but there's literally 3 different podcasts underneath it, but there's like over 100 episodes. So yeah, I always just look for what's the thing that's going to light me up now.
Love it. Excuse me. So I've been doing this podcast, it's either 4 or 5 years now. And for the last, I've been in sales 50 years. And for the last 20 plus years, I've been working with professional sales organizations and professional sales people. But about 6 months ago, was thinking, like we do sometimes, what's going on, what's new, where can I add value, what's possible. And I came to realize that there are a lot of people out there who have to sell, but they are not professional salespeople. I call them accidental salespeople or non-professional salespeople. In fact, I've devised something called the Sales Confidence Lab just for them. So I'm talking about people like you and I are professional salespeople, but there are coaches, consultants, creatives, solopreneurs, accountants, people like that. A coach is not a professional salesperson, but if they can't sell, they starve. What advice do you have for an accidental seller who probably looks at sales like it's sleazy and slimy, and I don't want to be pushy, and I don't want people to think badly of me. How can those people adopt a sales mindset and enroll more clients? Because again, if they don't, they're going to starve.
Yeah. Yeah. They will have, as Zig says, skinny children.
Exactly right.
So, excuse me. There's a couple of things I was thinking about this last night, because that was what we all started this conversation on a couple of weeks back.
Yep.
And that there's two perspectives that I want to give you guys, everybody listening here. If you are the accidental salesperson, number one, you don't have to be a professional salesperson to make sales. It's not necessary. It's not required. You don't have to be a great superstar closer. What you need to be is the best version of you, like we talked about earlier. And you need to learn what we call the business of selling. We call them full cycle salespeople. When we recruit salespeople, they have to know how to run due diligence on their leads. They got to know how to work a pipeline, how to be in the qualification process. There's things that are done so they become an asset to the company. Well, you're already an asset to the company because it's your company. And so you have to show up in a way that structures your world. I always say you can master the art of becoming a great salesperson, which the likelihood is you never will be. Or you can master the art of structuring your world in such a way that sales happen. That you can do. And that's what I would encourage you to do. I have a resource that I'm going to share with you called 10 Moves to Make More Sales Without Getting Better at Selling. And it's literally, you get a video a day for 10 days that are each are 2 minutes or less. And it's one quick hitter exercise, like focus on your results, like take partners, like get laser focused on what's at stake for your client, like prayer. If you're not prayer and visualization, good luck having a lot of sales in general. That's my personal belief. And et cetera. There's a lot of those moves, and they're small and they're simple. But when you're focused on your positioning, are you clear about how you're positioned in the marketplace and differentiated? When all of those things start compound effect of all of that, all of a sudden you start showing up in a way that people come to you expecting something instead of come to you waiting for you to prove something. And it's a different game. And again, I will tell you, man, I'm great at sales. I'm better than the average bear. But I don't make a lot of sales because I'm a great closer. I make a lot of sales because I am well positioned in my life, my business, and my life. My world is well structured. So I almost always show up in the authority position, and people show up wanting to know, how can I do this for them? And it's a much easier game to play.
100%, Jim. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't make sales because I'm a great closer, although I am. I know, look, I sold Encyclopedia Britannica door to door 45, 50 years ago when it was a $2,000 set of books and you could send your kids to the library to use them for free. And I was closing 85% while the national average out of 2,500 salespeople was 25%. But it wasn't because I was a great closer. It was because I knew how to have a conversation with people. I knew how to chat with them and find out what they really wanted, what they cared about. And I think too often we're focused on how do I close the deal instead of how do I serve this person. I want to come back to something you said, though, because I love it and I feel it's so important. I'm not a religious person. I know you are, so I'm not a big prayer guy, but I do love the idea of visualization. Can you talk a little bit about that? What is it? How do we do it? Why is it important? I know that I think it's important, especially for the non-traditional salesperson.
For sure.
It sounds esoteric, except it's not.
100%. It's got to be there. Again, a benefit of the childhood that I had. I spent, when I was at home, when I wasn't getting getting beat, I spent a lot of my childhood on restriction and grounding. I was in my room all the time, and being alone in my room all the time, I became a bit of a fantasy seeker. I played baseball through college, played whatever sport was in season, largely because the harder I worked, the more love I got. So I got a lot of love on that game where I wasn't getting at home. So it made me some crazy, obsessed, maniacal athlete. But I spent time at home. I would literally lay on my bed and put my fingers on the seams and throw it 150 times. And I would vision throwing it from shortstop across the diamond, right to the first baseman, right in his pocket. I would visualize being up. I wanted to be up in the last at bat, bottom of the seventh inning back then, ninth inning, with the game on the line, because I wanted to be the hero so badly. And I saw over and over and over and over that pitch, that scenario, me making the hit, and even what I would do if I struck out, all of those things. So then when those opportunities came, I literally, there was no pressure because I had already been there 1,000 times. And your brain does not separate the difference between reality and fantasy. It only knows what you experience. That's all it knows. It's no different than if you take a 5-pound dumbbell and curl 100 times, or take a 50-pound dumbbell and curl it 10 times. Your muscles only know that it's fatigued. It doesn't know that there was 5 pounds on that dumbbell. It knows it reached a point of failure. And your brain works exactly the same way. It is imperative and vital. I have a stack. These are all my cards. Everything I don't add them every day, but I add them a lot of days. And everything on here is either Bible scriptures that I'm working on memorizing and applying to my life, or visualizations and goals, targets from aspirational goals, who I want to become, who I'm working on becoming, or financial targets or marriage targets. That this is my life. This is who I am.
I'm with you, man. Look, there's the old saying, I'll believe it when I see it, but it's actually the opposite. It's I'll see it when I believe it. Yes. And I'm with you. I was at the National Speakers Association convention 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I talked to a lot of different speakers. There were 3,000 professional speakers there. And to a person, they were all, I was asking, when you're in the wings being introduced, how do you feel? And everyone, butterflies in my stomach. I'm nervous. I'm like, really? And I was starting to think I'm the weirdo because I don't get nervous, because I'm on the side seeing, my eyes are closed. I'm seeing, as I'm walking out, the audience is applauding and they're loving me. Or when I'm going to do stand-up comedy, it's like I see them laughing their asses off. I'm not concerned about if that's not going to happen, because it either is or it isn't. All I can do is go up and do my best each and every time, whether it's comedy or trying to help somebody get involved with my products or services. But you visualize your success instead of, oh crap. Here's a perfect example: cold calling. Most people, when they're making cold calls, the thought is, why am I doing this? Nobody's going to pick up. If they do, they're going to yell at me. Nobody wants to be bothered. That was never now I don't cold call anymore. I teach people how to do it, but I built my business that way. But my thought was always, God, the person who I'm calling is so lucky because I'm phenomenal at what I do. They should be so thankful that I've decided to call them today. Now, I'm not saying I say that to them, and I know that's an arrogant thought, but that's my attitude. Is that what you're talking about, Jim?
Very much so, because the problem is the opposite is also true. It's like what we think about, we bring about. Thoughts become things. Words. Guys, please, just if you take nothing else from everything we've been discussing today, you have got to watch your words, because you will say things to yourself that you will never say to another human being. And God, that is so dangerous, because when we get on that man, we will just take that dive all the way down to the center of the universe, and we will beat ourselves up the whole way. And then how on earth can you show up as the greatest version of you when you just got through beating yourself up about how stupid you were, or how dumb this was, or how this won't work, or no one's going to answer this phone? Well, guess what? You are literally putting that out, that expectation. The universe lives to return back to us that which we put out. Yeah. And you gotta stop. And you can't, not just you have to make sure that you cut off the receptors too. You cannot be around it. Don't watch all the political nonsense, because it's not just bad stuff to you, it's bad stuff in general. Negative energy brings your energy down. And again, I'll show you how crazy I am. I got this is stuff. I am a walking, talking, freaking commercial billboard for the self-film. I print out and laminate all kinds of stuff. This is my credo, my opportunity maker credo. I say these every day, right? This is my honor over hype, my sales godfather oath, saying games and things, stuff that I say to myself. My iconic statement, I'm an icon maker. I'm world class. I'm a class of one, right? But I feed this stuff to myself every day, not because I need to. It's because the rest of the world tells me how stupid I am, and all the mistakes that I made tell me that I can't do this. And I have to remind myself, oh yeah, I do this. And I do this really well. And other people need me to do it. Right. And then this Power versus Force was a fantastic book. There's a chart here's a map of consciousness, and it ranks all of the different feelings and vibrations that we have as humans. And love, joy, and peace always vibrates much higher, and you will attract more great things into your life than if you run around with fear, guilt, shame, and apathy. I hope that's just common sense, but that's science as well.
It's not just common sense. It is. And look, you said it. Your brain is always listening to you. And it's listening to everything around you. And we all, I think, have that little voice in our head that's, you're so stupid, you're so fat, you're so broke, you're so this. Well, guess what you get more of when you say that stuff? Exactly that. So if you're not feeding yourself positive stuff, and I like the other thing you said, look, I can't completely cut out politics because there's too much going on. I need to stay informed, but I think you could be Tony Robbins himself, who I consider the greatest motivational speaker of our time. If you're listening to that stuff all day long, it's tough to stay positive and be in a frame of mind and a come from that when you do meet people who might be interested in your product or service, they're going to feel that negativity, and that's not what they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, you can listen to politics. Again, do what you're going to do. You do you. But I've put a lot of work for decades around building this
me too.
From the inside out. So I learned how to observe thoughts as they occur instead of getting taken over by them. Right. So you need to work on you have to be honest with yourself. If you've mastered this skill set for yourself, then you can take in different things. If you haven't, then you got to get everything away and just be positive and feed yourself with nothing but awesome things that will elevate you. And all of a sudden, you'll just be moving at a different cadence, and you'll attract people, and you'll see opportunities differently. You'll see deals differently. You'll tell a client, nah, I don't think I should work with you, instead of going, please work with me. Right. So things will change. So it's all about who you're being. Always, always, always come back to rule number 1, which is actually the only rule we have. It's not what you're saying, who you're being while you're saying it. That moves the mountains. And everything else is subservient to rule 1.
Yeah. And that's how you become the person who, when you do walk into the room, when you walk out, everybody goes, wow, what a great guy. What a great gal. I really enjoyed being with them. I want to talk about something else because I do research for these interviews. I go on people's LinkedIn feeds and their websites, and I love reading yours because every post I'm like, yes, I agree. Oh, that's perfect. So lots of salespeople have what I call head trash, thoughts inside their head, which sound perfectly reasonable, but aren't. They just aren't true. And one of the most common, you posted this just recently, is you can't sell during the summer. I get calls in March and April usually. Jeff, what am I going to do? You can't sell during the summer. And I always ask the same question, even though I know what the answer is going to be. Why can't you sell during the summer? And I know you know what it is. The answer is always because everybody's on vacation. No, they're not. Everybody's not on vacation. First of all, we don't go on vacation all summer. And if we do, and a lot of people don't take vacations at all, it's maybe a week or two. So that's head trash. You recently suggested there are 5 sales moves to double down on this summer. What are some of the moves that we should pay attention to during the summer?
Yeah, it's funny because when I came up with that perspective, I used to buy that lie too. People would say it and they convinced me of it. And I remember I had an office back when I was working in a building, and I was working. It was Christmas season. It was like a week before Christmas, and so it was dark. And I'm looking out, and I could see the freeway, and it's 5 days before Christmas, and I'm literally on the phone with a client who's telling me nobody's buying, and I'm looking out the freeway. I'm like, I see nothing but taillights, and everybody's heading to the mall to go buy stuff. They're all buying. What are you talking about? Because I was believing them. I was like, everybody, there's only 12 months of the year. There's only 7 days of the week. It's like, what are you going to do? Cut out 3 of the months of the year? It's like everybody's, who's buying? They're just not buying from you. And so you have to be very clear that you got to double down. We did we're in a season of double down on the fundamentals of the summer. And so every month we're doing different themed activities around it. And like next week or a couple of weeks in August, we're doing dollars in the door live selling week. And so we're going to do a power hour every day and drive you. Like, look, you need to go and outreach, get appointments on the calendar. We have some strategies we're going to lead people through so that they can become more effective at doing this. None of this involves sales training. All of it involves designing the things around you that will keep you in action, keep you relevant and in front of people, right? So that's the biggest. Got to have fundamentals, got to have a clear path, and you need to obsess. Take this time to obsess about every problem that your ideal client's having. If you think they're not buying during the summer, then talk to them anyway. Talk to them in the marketplace. It's interesting how many people take vacations when they don't have money. It's interesting, whatever your product line is, whatever you offer, address them, because if they're out doing the thing, even though they shouldn't be doing the thing, then you need to be the voice of reason. You got to become the ambassador to them for their process. So if I'm talking, if that was my concern, it is not. I don't believe that people are not buying in the summer, but I would be sharing as a sales leader, I would be sharing, It's stunning how many businesses will go into debt and break themselves to take a vacation during the summer, when if they just spent that 3 months bulletproofing their business, they could take as many vacations as they want next year and beyond, right? Because I would tap them right where they are. They go, yeah, that's me. Dang it, I shouldn't even be here. I should be at home bulletproofing my business. Just tell your kids no one time. Say, hey guys, for this summer, we're going to eat beans and rice because daddy's going to work. And I'm going to make sure that next summer we can go anywhere we want, right? But nobody wants to do that stuff. So if you talk like that, instead of, hey, do you need another sales pitch? Do you need another offer? Do you need another system? No, talk to them about the stuff that's really going on and have them go, ooh, this guy knows me. This guy knows what's going on in my world right now, right? So you just have to be the ambassador. And again, be willing to tell the truth versus being liked, and you'll change the game for you and for them.
Yeah, I'm actually happy when everybody's saying you can't sell during the summer, because they give up, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still selling. In fact, I make it my business to make certain I close a piece of business every single year between Christmas and New Year's. That 1 week when everybody says it's impossible, I do it every single year just so I can stand in front of people and go, I did it. Why can't you? Right. And the truth is, if I did it, it's not because I'm fantastic. You can. Everybody, because my mindset, like yours, is week between Christmas and New Year's, there are people still doing business. Summer, people, the cars are going to the mall at Christmas, and the cars are going to the beach now, but they're buying stuff too. I've been telling people recently, not stop paying attention at all, but don't give any credence to all the chaos that's around you. The economy and the world and wars and politics and all that stuff. Okay, it does all exist, but you still got to pay the rent. You could have the best excuse in the world, but at the end of the month, they're going to come take your car. They're going to come take your house. So you got to get out and sell. And to me, that just means get out there and speak to more people. There are people out there right now who need what you got, what I got, and what everybody else who's listening to us has. You 100%. Just have to go find them. Before we go, first of all, any final piece of advice, and then I'd like to share your information in case people would like to speak with you.
Yeah, the two things that I was going to address around the accidental salesperson. The first one being, you don't have to be an expert at selling. Right? Structure your world differently.
Absolutely.
The second one is, you've been doing this your whole life, every day of your life. You've been selling. That's how you got your spouse to choose you. That's how you get your kids to eat broccoli before they eat dessert, or do homework before they go play outside, or get your friends to go to Chinese instead of to Indian food. Whatever the thing is, you do this every single day. So our mission, when we are developing salespeople, is to just strip away all the other nonsense and get you back to just doing you. Because if you do what you've done, like here's a quick example, is that, if you have a relative, if you have a sister and she's in an abusive relationship, and she tells you, man, this is really scary, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to live like this. And you say, well, let's move you out. Let's fix this now. And she goes, well, maybe next year. I'll do this next year. What are you going to do? You're going to, okay, sure, I'll follow up with you next year. You're going to, no, you're going to grab her, throw her in your car. You're going to go and you're going to pack her bags and move because you care. Why don't you do that with your clients? That's your normal default instinct. But then when you get on the phone with a prospect, you go, oh, okay, well, it's all right. Go ahead and go do that and ruin your business. And, instead of just telling them the truth, say, no, you got to be eyes wide open. If you leave this call right now, you're going right back to the mess that brought you here. Are you okay with that? Right? Have the conversations with people that you would have anywhere else except in a sales conversation. And you'd be stunned at how many people will move towards you.
I love it, Jim. I love it. I'm going to share my screen. It's showing your sales page. Would you like to tell people, please, if they're interested in working with you or finding out more information, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I started doing this recently, and it's working out well. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. And truth be told, it is my team line. So it is my number. It goes right to my phone, but my team is there also in case I miss anything. Just text me and give me any question you have, any challenge you have, or just say, hey, heard you on the podcast with Jeff, at area code 916-587-1946. I don't have an opt-in for you. The resources I'm going to share with Jeff, they're gifts. They are PDFs. One of them's on my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel. I'll actually share the link with that because we've been investing in that, and over the last 90 days, 6 months, massive improvement of the quality of our videos and what we're doing. So go there. But I just want to help. I really do. I want to serve you. 90% of you probably can't hire me anyway or won't. So it's not about that. I want to be able to help as many of you as I can overcome stuff. And I can solve probably 90% of the problems you have in growing your business in 10 minutes. So I won't even need you to hire me. So just reach out and let's talk.
What's the name of the YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is Winning with Sales Teams.
Winning with Sales Teams. And what's the number to text you?
916-806-9118. And guys, go make some impact. Focus on people's problems. If you focus on their problems, you won't have time to worry about yours, and you'll just start making good things happen.
I love it. Thank you for sharing your brilliance with us so generously, Jim. And I'll end as I always do. Guys, please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Jim. Thanks again.